So I've been doing some classes and toying around with SQL Server a bit. I've always been into databases for a long time. So as I take coursework, I like to kind of test out some new skills with with a database that I built. Most courses, when you take a course in databases, the sample database is inevitably something like Northwind, or it's customers and orders and line orders. That's fine, employee ID. But I thought we'd do something a little bit different, and I've been in the education field, so let's put together a school database. Now, just, this is, mimic something that you might see in a college. Again, this is nowhere near anything that would actually be put into production. There are constraints that need to be put in. There are a lot of functionality that's missing. Let me just introduce you to the database real quick. Again, it's nothing fancy. We could have I can go really overboard with the tables here. I have courses, obviously, course ID, it's a number, and we have subject, the course number like you'd find in a catalog, and the course name. Each course has a prerequisite, possibly more than one, so that's why I have a prerequisite ID. Course ID could be in there more than once. I didn't want to set course ID as a primary key, because one course could have several prerequisites. Well, so there are quarters, and then there are the courses themselves. So courses relates to the course ID in enrollment, and quarter, the ID of a particular quarter, like 3 would be, I think, spring 19 or spring 18, something like that. Anyway, quarter ID. Then, of course, you have the students. You can ignore the name set. That's a leftover. I have a website that automatically, or use a website, not my website. I use a website that automatically generates information. So this is randomly generated fictitious information, and you can choose the name set. So that's a leftover from that process. I can probably get rid of that. But first name, last name, birthday, age, social security number, student number, and ID. The ID as the so the idea is student number is like what it used to be. In my day, it was social security number was your student ID. Now they have a separate number. So this is kind of like your this is the actual auto-generated. ID is the one that's actually going to be auto-generated. Student number is still unique. I'm not sure if I have an index on it. So basically what I have here is a bunch of stored procedures. I'm going to start with a function to get a student's transcript. All right, so it's your basic select. I do some things like quarter name. This is actually putting together the subject, course number, and course name. And so I just kind of concatenate it into one field, so as course. And, from enrollment, E, interjoin students, interjoin courses, interjoin quarter. Again, that quarter should probably be in brackets, but it does work. And so we can create this. I think it's already in there, so that's why the drop if exists. And then we can test it. We're going to test student. We're going to the input returns a table, but the input is a student ID. So student ID 1500, we'll test with that. And we see this person doesn't have, that's their transcript. There's not much in there, but that's the idea. Example number 2. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use this function. We're going to do a cross apply. So what I want to do, we're going to run this we're going to run the transcript function, the entire student table, but only for students who are currently enrolled for winter 2019 quarter. I think who are only for students who are currently enrolled. I think I have quarter number 5 in this instead. I updated some of the data since I wrote the description, but so I only want students who are enrolled in quarter number 5. If their ID is in this, we're going to cross apply the get transcript function. So let's see how that works. And now, again, this is everyone. And again, it's showing multiple quarters. Remember that's because I'm getting the entire transcript. So this is, one student, multiple quarters. So the question is, are they enrolled in quarter number 5? We're not only calling quarter number 5 students, so that's okay. So that's basically the function. I want to take through some stored procedures. And again, I put stored procedures here for various tasks. Let's scroll back up the top here. Student overload. I want to find if there are students who are above a particular course limit. So we're going to select the students, interjoin enrollment in courses, and again, we're going to select from students where the student ID is in this inner query, in this subquery, and having count. So we're going to group by student ID, having count student ID greater than whatever limit it is. and of course the quarter will be another. So basically, select students from a given quarter where they have more than a certain number of classes, take those SIDs, and then we're going to use this to the outer query to get their information. So I think I don't need to run this because the stored procedure is already in there. So we'll just test it. And again, it's saying these students, and you can see. Actually, what did I run it with? Quarter number. The limit is 4. Having more than 4 classes in quarter number 3. Okay, this is what I often like to do to auto-populate a table, because when I'm testing, we want to be able to generate random, not necessarily random data, but we want to auto-populate. So I create this procedure to randomly enroll students in a particular class. So we're going to import a course ID and a quarter, and then num key, first name key, last name key. Again, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to pass this information in, select, we're going to insert into enrollment, and we're going to select the course ID, and quarter from students, and this is the key here, where student number is meets some pattern, and the last name is either the last name or first name meets some respective pattern too. Again, it's a way of just testing. So let's just put student number has a 7 in it. The last name has the ST, and first name has a D in it. Again, this is not part of the procedure. I just do this. I want to get an idea. 117 rows. Okay, so I'm not going to have a class that's overfilled. That's the whole point of doing this. This is not even part of the procedure. But this tells me how many students I'm about to enroll, not so I don't enroll the entire database accidentally. So 117. So I'm just going to take that same information and copy it over here. Maybe someday I'll come up with a more innovative way of doing this. But so we're going to run the stored procedure, and we're going to enroll students. I think this is actually calculus. Quarter number 4, who meet that random pattern that we just. I don't think there's currently anyone in 4, so this would be a good way to test it. Okay, and these are the students we just enrolled, so we know that works. Get the transcript for a given student and a quarter. So this one's a little more sophisticated, but we're going to input the student ID and a quarter. If we want to get the full transcript regardless of quarter, we're going to use 0. This means any quarter. So in this case, we're just going to select the information from enrollment E. We're going to interjoin the students, interjoin the courses, and I'm not going to bother selecting a quarter because we're selecting all of them. But if a quarter is selected, it's basically the same, except now we have this difference here, and quarter equals that quarter. So again, I'm not going to run the code because that procedure is already in there. And again, in case it's not, I have the drop procedure if it exists. But let's actually run this. And then, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this procedure on 10 randomly selected students. So basically, I declared SID, student ID, as an integer, and I'm going to set a random number. I know that will give me a student that's actually in the table. Tested that. And then we're going to execute, we're going to get the transcript ID for that student. Actually, let's before we even do that, let's just let's 1.15 for quarter number 3, just to kind of run it as a standalone first. Okay, and so we ran, basically we got the term 3 for that one student. If I change this to 0, I get his entire, so I get his quarter 3 and quarter 5. But now we're going to select random students, and then SID, while counter is less than 10. So we're going to do this 10 times, set the SID to a random value, then we're going to execute the stored procedure with that random value, quarter number 3, and then, of course, we're going to counter equal 1. So I think we can do all of that. And basically, so we just selected 10 randoms. So we've run this 10 times and found the quarter 3. This one's not enrolled in quarter 3, I guess. but it's a real student, just they're not enrolled in quarter 3. Again, I think we did this already. Get any quarter. I think this was just a test query I put in there, so it's not part of the procedure. Oh, I want to find all the prerequisites. So select from courses where course ID in, and then we're going to select prerequisites where course ID is equal to the course ID that we pass in. So we're going to find all of the course's prerequisites. I'm going to test that on find prerequisites 902. What is course 902? Just curious. Course ID 902 is Jedi Trials Seminar. Okay, so that should be Intro to the Force 1, Intro to the Force 2. It's probably the one we're going to use. And there you go. So these are prerequisites before you take the Jedi Trials Seminar. We could try something for what course 12 is. I think that's algebra, I think. Algebra. Oh, okay. Maybe that's pre-calculus. You have to take algebra 2. Okay, but that's the idea. I'm going to put 902 back in here. Okay. Who is not yet enrolled? So we're going to use the school database. Again, drop if exists. And what I want to do is I want to select from students left join enrollment, where that student ID is not in the enrollment table for that quarter. Order by student name. Who's not enrolled for quarter number 3? A lot. If I want to say who's not enrolled yet in quarter number 5, again, I want to execute the whole thing. Again, all right, so that should probably be a select distinct, probably. But we'll put that in there right now. Oh, this is the last one. It's kind of a grand finale here. So speaking of generating test data, right now, if we look at enrollment for quarter 3, did I close that? No. Okay, so there actually are grades in quarter 3. We got to clear that first. But basically what we're doing here, again, it's a long procedure. We're going to generate random grades for everyone in that quarter, every student enrolled in that quarter. Basically, what we're doing is I want to set the minimum and maximum enrollment IDs for students who are actually enrolled in that quarter. And now what we're going to do is, again, we're going to set up another loop here. We're going to update enrollment, set the grade, and we're going to generate a random GPA, 1 decimal place. It's going to be random GPA from 0 to 4 following basically a certain standard deviation and mean. So we'll set this, we can set for an average of 2.6 and deviation of 0.8, where enrollment ID equals I and quarter equals quarter. And then, of course, we go to the next part in the loop. The last part of this is just in case we get anything that's over 4 or less or negative. We'll say, well, if grade is less than 1, we'll set it to 0. If it's greater than 4, we'll set it to 4. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of set this up by resetting. So we can go, where was it? Okay, so right now, we just saw this, but now all the grades are null. So the grades are null. And now I'm going to set, that's for quarter 3, I'm going to set to an average of 2.6 and a standard deviation of 0.8. And it's going to go through all those enrollment rows. And execute. That one's a slow one. But if we go back to enrollment, oh, you know what? Because I put quarter 4. Let's try. I thought I had this in a different window. Okay. So let's actually I'll run this one more time just to make sure. We're going to just set them all to null. Okay, and then we'll run the procedure. Oh, there it is. I'll run the procedure again. Then we go back. Oh, I have to refresh. And now we have random grades put in. So it's just a way of generating test data to make sure. And again, there's a lot of things we can put in here, a GPA calculator, some checks to make sure that it's not, when you're enrolling, it's not currently enforcing the prerequisite. So there's a lot of stuff that can be put in here. But all right, thanks for watching.